If you are someone who loves food movies as much as I do, then you are at the right place. But before I jump into the list, I would like to talk a little about why I love food movies, what's so special about them, and why this list. Other than the reason that we all love food. Now, I have one major rule is that movies that show food for the sake of food, just food porn, I don't think they really work because food is not just food. Food is love, food is memories, food brings people together, food is culture and history, food is an aesthetic enjoyment, and food is also pleasure. So, great movies throw light on all these aspects of food and they show the critical role that food plays in human lives. Another thing is that food movies are also cooking movies. Cooking is integral part of these food movies. Cooking has a lot of significance. Cooking is a fundamental aspect of human civilization. If you see, humans are the only animals that cook, and that's what differentiates a basic differentiator between humans and animals. We both need food, but humans are the ones who cook. So cooking is an integral aspect of being human. Let us now jump into the list. I'll start with the one we all know about. The first movie is Ratatouille. It is the story of a gastronomically gifted rat, Remy, who aspires to become French cook after reading the book by a very famous chef, Gustave, who says anyone can cook. So along with the human protagonist, Remy start to cook at a real human restaurant, and that sets the story moving. The second movie is Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. This movie is set in Taiwan. It's a story of old widowed master chef and the lives of his three daughters. Now this master chef, every Sunday he puts together a grand meal for the family. He cooks a grand meal. That's the opening scene of the movie. This master chef is cooking a grand meal for his family on that Sunday. I love the opening scene. It's an elaborate cooking sequence. I think it runs about 4 to 5 minutes. He cooks about 10 dishes. That's one of my all-time favorite scenes in movies. Do check it out. The third movie is Julie and Julia. Julie is a cubicle worker who just hates her day job, but she loves to cook, so she starts a personal project of cooking from Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking. That's a book. Now this is a real story. Both Julie Powell and Julia Child are real people. Julia Child was a really famous TV chef celebrity who popularized French cooking in American households. So we also parallelly see Julia Child's own cooking experiments and how she learned cooking in the movie. So there are two stories. There are stories of two people who love cooking and enjoy cooking and who cook throughout the movie. The fourth movie is Big Night. This is one of my favorite movies. It has Stanley Tucci in it. Big Night is the story of two Italian brothers who come to America and they've set up a restaurant, and now they're trying to run their struggling restaurant business. Now on the advice of a successful restaurant friend who's also Italian, they invite a famous singer and want to throw a grand meal, and they invite all their friends. They throw a party so that it's kind of a promo for the restaurant. And then of course through that there is a tussle between the elder brother and the younger brother. They have different aspirations for the business, and we see that go on. And of course there are some beautiful dishes in the movie. The fifth one is Tampopo. It is a story, it's set in Japan. It's a story of a young widow called Tampopo, and she has a son, and she is now trying to run the ramen business her husband left behind. To start with, she's not really great at making ramen. So with the help of a truck driver, she really aspires to become one of the best ramen chefs in Japan. So with that aspiration, the truck driver and Tampopo go out sampling ramens in so many other restaurants there. And they also enlist the help of other people, and they set out to improve the ramen at their restaurant. There are also other short stories that are interspersed between the main storyline. These are distinct stories, distinct from the main storyline. There are short stories as an ode to food. We see that through a dying man, we see that through a guy with a toothache, we see that through a little kid, and we also see that through eroticism. If I have to choose one movie that plays testimony to the importance of the role that food plays in our lives, I think that should go to Tampopo. The sixth movie is The 100-Foot Journey. It's set in a small French town, a countryside. Indian family just moves into the countryside and they set up their own restaurant, the Indian restaurant, next to a Michelin-starred French restaurant. Now this brings in a clash of culture, a misunderstanding, and later each of these people come to discover each other's cultures and appreciate each other's culture through each other's food. The seventh movie is Little Forest. Now, this is a movie set in a small Japanese village. It follows the story of Ichiko. She is a young girl who is trying to live a self-sufficient life in her home village. So she cooks from the fresh seasonal ingredients she gets from her farm or the wild. And the whole movie is just about cooking. We see her cooking. We see elaborate sequences of her cooking, and she talks about her recipe as she cooks. The movie has got a fresh, mindful, positive vibes to it. But make sure you watch the 2014 Japanese movie because that's the one I watched. There's also a more recent Korean version of the same storyline, but I've not watched the one. I watched the Japanese movie. The eighth movie is Babits Feast. This is set in a small coastal Danish town. I think it's probably in the 19th century. So there are two elderly sisters who are really pious and they live a very austere life. They just pray and then live on simple food, and they take care of the small congregation, religious congregation that their father started, and every week a small group of people meet in the two sisters' household and they pray and take part in a very simple meal. And later a French woman, they give refuge to a younger French woman. They give her food and accommodation, and later when this young French woman, she was a chef in one of the famous restaurants in France, in Paris, but no one knows about that. And later when she wins a lottery, she spends almost the entire amount of her winning to prepare a grand meal for this congregation, for the sisters in their congregation. So she lays out an elaborate meal, and all these people who are really pious and live a austere life, they almost deny themselves of any pleasure. When they taste the food that's cooked by Babette, the cook in the movie goes by the name Babette, and that's why it's called the Babits Feast. When they eat their food, they're tasting so much pleasure for the first time, and quite contrary to what they assume that experiencing pleasure would take you away from God. It is through the pleasure of food their spirit is elevated and they actually feel more close to God. The ninth movie is a really popular movie. It's Chef. It's a feel-good story of a father who has just lost his job as a head chef in a restaurant. So in the meantime, the father and the son bond over food and cooking, and they together start a food truck business. They travel around America. Quite enjoyable film. It not be as profound as the other movies here, but I think it still drives from the point of food bringing people together and as an agent of bonding. So we've come to the last movie. We have to finish with the dessert. The 10th movie is Chocolat. It is set in a small French village. It's a traditional, conventional village. It's very religious. All the villagers go to the church on every Sunday and listen to the sermon. It has got a very strict mayor who ensures that everyone's following the conventions and the morality of the village is not broken. It is in this context, Vivian and her little daughter. Vivian is an expert chocolatier. They come to settle into the town. They settle into the town and they open a chocolatery. Now this offends the people of the village because chocolate, they consider pleasure as a sin, and chocolate was a big part of the sin of pleasure. But progressively, Vivian, with her own personality and through her chocolates, brings a lot of happiness to the villagers' lives, and each one has their own transformation and they become happy for the good, and that wins over the hearts of the villagers. So that was my list of 10 food or cooking movies that I really enjoyed. Let me know if you've watched any of these movies in the comments below and what are your favorites. Also, let me know if there is any movie if I missed out and you think that I should definitely watch it. I will go and check it out because I love food movies. I'll meet you next time with another video. Goodbye and thank you for watching.